conversations. We hope that you had an opportunity to enjoy some of the wings and dips that we had there. Small bites, so we're not here to fill your bellies, but we are here to fill you with knowledge and information so that you walk away informed about who Dr. Lakeisha Gantt is, what she represents, and what she plans to do when she becomes mayor of Athens. And then I also just want to let you guys know and also acknowledge Jean Gard. She's our sponsor for tonight. So none of this could have happened. And we'll give her an opportunity to speak in just a moment. But just real quick, you guys are not here to see and hear me. But I do want to talk about the little stands that are on your table. Of course, you got Dr. Gantt's brilliant picture and beautiful smile, and then some of the points that she stands on. But then also there's a QR code there at the bottom. Donate here. This is not only a meet and greet, but it is a fundraising opportunity. This campaign is built on grassroots. It's everyday people like you and I. And so we're not asking you to sacrifice a mortgage, arm and leg, utility bill, but we hope that you're able to give something tonight. So just use the QR code to go online and to access the donor page. If you are one of the ones that don't like to give, put your credit card information online, we do have it. You can actually give in person. Just fill out this envelope, put your check and money in there. We'll make sure it gets to where it needs to be. Another key thing tonight about this event is that we have someone here to match everything that we are up to 1,000. Make sure I correct that. Of what we raised tonight. So y'all, we want to get that 1,000, okay? All right. So if you haven't already, please scan your QR code. We have a QR code up here, and if you just want to give cash or check, here, fill out the envelope, and you can give that way. So, without further ado, I will hand it over to Ms. Jean Gard.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. What a great turnout. I really appreciate this for Lakeisha's benefit. The way I know her, she's my neighbor. I've lived in this neighborhood, in the Jones Swanson neighborhood since 2011. Of course, I got to know her really in that way. And first off, they're great neighbors, okay? But then I heard she got on the school board. And that was fascinating to me because anybody willing to take on the school board has a level of commitment and patience. And then she became president of the school board. And that just elevated. I was just blown away that this person just right around the corner had taken on such an incredible responsibility, and to do it for all those years, and to do it through COVID, and just all of that turmoil that she must have had to dealt with that whole time. Parents, students, administration, and then I read more about her resume and what she wanted to accomplish, to work with UGA to do more for our community. And if UGA will cooperate, work with small business to improve housing, to improve situations for our veterans, and for homeless. And of course, I know she has a very strong background in mental health and psychology, licensed psychologist, right? So it's the ability to take on those tasks and to do it persistently and with great patience is something I want in my local government. And I have lived in Athens now 35 years, a little bit in Mahoning County, but the difference between counties is huge. But I love Athens, and I just really want to see Lakeisha become mayor.
we all have very full lives, a lot of responsibilities, and we are living in a world that does not stop just because there is an event. And so I do want to say thank you to everyone that is here. I also want to say thank you to Jeannie, my neighbor. And hopefully we've been a good neighbor. Our dogs get a little strange sometimes, but I really do appreciate your support. I appreciate tangible support, and you holding this space for me. So thank you very much for hosting our meeting group tonight. So I was told by Loa, who coordinated the meeting group, that I have 20 minutes, which is not fair.
Just watch me over here.
Okay, all right, 20 minutes, which is not fair. But I also would be remiss if I did not thank my campaign team, many of who are here. My campaign co-manager, Charlisa, my sister, LaWa, just if you're with the campaign, can you send up LaWa? You've met most of them. Lisa, LaToya, I'm searching through the table, Brandy, U.S. Promotions, look, Suzanne, who am I missing? I see other. Who am I missing? Anybody? My dear husband, who is he is the campaign technology person. He's the sign maker when we need the sign maker. He's the technology person when we need him to be. And my dear kids, because I don't do this without, it's sort of a family commitment. I see some family members, my dear aunts, dear friends, and other people that I've seen before, and people that I have not seen before. Now down to 15 minutes, I want to share a little bit with you about my story, and then I much more prefer engaging and listening, because I believe that a person who is a leader, that is a skill that's undervalued. When you have a mayor, Jean mentioned that as president of the board, my primary role was governing a leadership team and truly serving as a liaison between operations and elected officials. And I don't know if any of you all have ever done that, but that is no small task. That's no small task, because you have to keep balance, right? Everyone has great ideas, but there's a strategy to the work. The first strategy is being sure that you have a healthy governance team. If you don't have a healthy governance team, you can sort of scratch any idea that you have, because it becomes more about politics. But I want to just say a little bit about my story. Oftentimes people ask me, why am I running for mayor? And if you listen to any of the podcasts and the interviews, it's the whole, the answers about schools are our communities are a microcosm. Our schools are a microcosm of the community. And so a lot of times in schools, we get to see what parents and what families really struggle with. And we don't necessarily have that immediate opportunity to impact some of those conditions, right? At the school level. We do, but we don't have as much latitude as mayor commission, working conditions, wages, a variety of different things. And so that reason is all good. I've said it 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times. But I want to offer to you a more personal reason. This is a city that I was born in. I was born several miles from what we would call this over the river. This community has shaped me in ways that I can't quite articulate. I witnessed throughout decades the challenges of our communities. I've shared that, I grew up in an over-policed community. And so the authorities that we knew most were the police. And we knew which ones we could trust, which ones we couldn't, when people needed to run, when, it was truly an existence. I've seen the beautiful parts of Athens as well. And my real purpose in running is not necessarily, I didn't dream of this, 20 years ago. The only thing, the charge that my mom gave me was to be better, to graduate from high school. And so that's what I did. I had no idea I was really going to college. before school was over. But she said, do better. Okay? Do better than I've done. Like, go forward. And so throughout my life, as I've had an opportunity not to do better by material things, but make the community better, there's an urge and a burden that exists inside of me that I just can't quite shake. And so it's not about all of the things that I want. Sure, and I do want to talk about some of these things that I want, and that will happen. But it truly is something that I have to do at this time. Athens has never had leadership, I believe, that is close enough to the struggles of a variety of different people that they can take that into their governance. Okay? I've done that. And it's uncomfortable for me to talk about all the different things that I've done, but I'm learning that in a mayor's race, you got to talk about the things you've done. We have not had a lot of leaders that remember the struggles of just everyday people. I mean, across race, across class. We have not had that. And I know from almost 8 years of experience that burden that I have to make the community that I was born in better, I know it won't leave me. And I know it won't be compromised by who's at the table. I know it will not be compromised by who is offering money. And the only reason I know that is because I've done it. I've done the work for the past 8 years. And so this is not just a desire, but it truly is something that has to be done. It's sort of a meeting the moment where we need leadership that can represent voices across the spectrum. We need someone at the table reminding people that there are people that don't know where they're going to sleep. That is the urgency that drives us. And so I want to be very transparent. You know, I'm not a mayor that's driven by power and money, but I'm driven by urgency. I'm driven by the voices of people that we don't see. They don't show up at town halls. Okay? They may not have a representative to send to speak with you. They may never sign up for a school board meeting to speak. They may never come to mayor and commission. But we need a mayor who is not far removed from the struggles and the realities of everyday people. And I believe that I'm that person. I know that I'm that person, but I also have the skill set. There is a skill set to governing. And I know that because of this community, I've been able to not only have that skill set, but you all have trusted me to actually use that skill set to navigate, to take our boards, our school boards to very different places during very turbulent times. I want to talk just a little bit. I know that there's a lot of information on my website. There is a lot of information here. But I want to highlight some of the actions and the priorities that I think are important. I'm in heaven. I've been told that we should not, no gosh, you don't need to talk about UGA. You don't need to talk about housing in UGA. I believe that we have to talk about housing in UGA. Woo. I've been told that, you got to figure out some other path forward. I've lived a life and governed in a way that I always have to figure out multiple different paths forward. So I understand that is not an easy task, but just because something is not easy, it does not mean that you don't ask. Okay? And so we need to talk about housing, and not just housing in general, because that is a very large umbrella. We need to talk about affordable housing communities. And we need to ask very boldly that UGA will join us in building affordable housing communities. Okay? People refer to it as social housing, a variety of different terms that you use. I do not believe that density is our way out of our housing crisis. Okay? We can't build more apartments, luxury apartments for the University of Georgia students while Athenians struggle. It does not get us there quick enough, okay? I know economically, I've been reading a lot of the studies and have sort of immersed myself in this idea of supply. The more supply we have, the better. But the truth is, a lot of those studies, we don't highlight the challenges that people face. And we're talking about years and years down the line. We often do not see a return. So I believe that we have to ask for affordable housing communities. I also believe that we have to create more, we have to embrace more creative ways to have housing communities. Not just ADUs, right? We have some restrictions on our ADUs, right? You can create an ADU, but then you can't quite have this element. You can't have a stove. Okay, there's a certain type of range that you can't have. There are steps that we can take, quite frankly, now. We can take those now to ease some of the burden, to be a little bit more flexible in how we actually determine zoning in Clark County. People need more flexibility in what they can do on their land. There are many of us, just I know from knowing you, that grew up in like multi-generational families. I shouldn't have to jump through 100 different hoops if I want to build a place on my land for my mom, right? Or for my uncle, or for extended family. Right now, with our zoning requirements, there are some limitations. And that is something, regardless of who comes here, that's something we can work on right now, okay? We've attempted to work on tiny homes, okay, about 3 years ago, right? Releasing some of the constraints. We weren't successful. So this is what I'm telling you. When it comes to a mayor, you have to have someone who knows how to leverage the power with the governance team, how to get a core that will help you see that vision and move that vision forward. It's not just about ideas. If it was about ideas, Athens would be a perfect place. It would be a perfect place. We would have solved homelessness, we would have solved crime, we would have solved educational issues, we would have solved criminal justice issues. But governance takes more than that. It's about ideas, and it's about collaborating with your governance team and having healthy enough relationships to move that forward. So that's it on housing, but I'm really excited, and you can read more information about this. Every single platform idea and action that I have is anchored by research. And it's not just regular, like research. People love to use that term. It's data supported. It's reports that Clark County has had completed. Okay? Our housing, our affordable housing investment strategy report, that is what guided that. Pretty much told us we got to have some subsidized housing here. Okay? But I'm really excited about my community uplift platform item. Under that item, as you read, these are things that we can do now when it comes to our veteran population. Our veterans don't have a place that they can come, that they can relax, they can actually connect with other veterans and feel better about being a part of our community. They don't have that. We have pieces of things, like we got treatment court, a veteran court here and there, but we don't have a one-stop shop for veterans. And I wish I could take credit for that. I went and sat down with our veterans, but some of this is just locating things. Like, the question has to be, how do we make Athens a place for everyone, where everyone feels included, but that they can thrive? Our aging population, right now, there's a very small amount of our budget that was provided to Council on Aging and resources. We have a large aging population in Clark County. Why is it that we don't remember them when we talk about where we're allocating our resources to? And not just that, where we're spending even something like our SLOSS dollars in our budget. But then I want to talk about children. And because this is something that we overlook. We think about children when something is happening, okay? When there's like a crime in the community or something big, that's when you see everyone get, they're worked up. We have opportunities right now to partner with smaller nonprofits that are doing the mentoring work, okay? That are working with children. We have an opportunity right now, as the mayor and commission goes into this next budget season. I hear people say, well, we want to reopen the recreational centers. Those centers never should have been closed, okay? They never should have been closed. And so when you think about these things, that's something that takes 5 or 10 years for us to start to realize the positive impact of that. Those are things that we can allocate in our budget right now as we move towards the budgeting season. I also believe that every child, I have an initiative called Every Child Thrives under my community uplift. I believe that every child in Athens Park County should have the opportunity to access our resources, our recreational resources. Not just a child who can afford it. I think every child, and especially every child who is at risk, whether they can access those services should not be dependent on if we have enough money, scholarship money. We should be actively recruiting those children, okay, our families, to participate in those services. Every child in our county deserves a right to have access to enrichment services. But that's not the case right now. We put that burden on the school. And we might give the school, and we have, the Park County ACC has given the school a little bit. But that was also a significant part that happened under my leadership. And so, our community uplift, my focus is uplifting communities that we don't hear from. I have a very special meeting next week with a group of individuals who have felt silence for so long in Athens. That I won't give specifics right now, but they are part of the disability community. Athens can be a place where we all feel that we belong. Athens can be a place where we all thrive. Athens can be a place where we are connected with each other, but that starts with your leadership. And in order for Athens to be connected, and in order for all of us to thrive, we have to have leadership that can do the work of connecting communities. And I believe that's me. So, I see a lot of smiles. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I would love to engage with you around these ideas, but not just these ideas, because I understand that I don't have a magic bullet. Okay, I'm more than happy to engage with you around your ideas, and I've already been doing that so far, and I welcome that for you to say, gosh, I hear that, but let's add to that. I welcome that opportunity, not just now, but when I become your mayor, that will change.
Everything was great. I wasn't rushing you. You guys know that. Yeah, I saw the system. Y'all keep good job there. So you guys heard the message. You heard Dr. Gadd, what she stands for, and there are a couple of ways that you guys can go ahead and start contributing towards your community, helping Athens become a better place. One, again, I'll mention is by supporting this campaign through your contributions. So, and I'm sorry when I speak, I just kind of everything, I don't know what I'm saying, I just talk. And then I get back to my seat and I'm like, what did you say? But I do want to acknowledge the individual that is willing to match what we raised tonight, and that's the Honorable Deborah Gonzalez. So she is again, that is one way that you can contribute to your community and to this campaign, is to give to keep us posted because I would like to keep you posted on how close we are, because we're gonna get that 1,000 tonight, right? No, absolutely. Come on up. The other way that you can help out with this campaign is.
Hey, sorry, at every Keisha event, I get up and I nag on y'all, I'm not going to work. So, sorry in advance. We have 75 days until May 19th. It's getting crunch time here.
Can I just interject? Luke is always making me nervous when he's giving us our account, but anyway, go ahead.
And we are at a financial disadvantage to other candidates. I don't mind that. Like, Keisha is not bought and paid for by anybody. At the same time, to hit our mark, to talk to the voters we have to talk to win, we gotta knock on their doors. Not everyone knows Keisha. Not everyone knows her story. Not everyone does their research before they go to vote. And the best thing, I mean, like, y'all been out, like it's real, you know? Like, one time you were on the doorstep and somebody saw you on, like, the Ring doorbell camera, and then they were, like, messaging, like, we're voting for you, you know? I'm gonna pass this around. I wrote my mom's name on it. Cite her out to what are there, 40 people in this room? Give or take? I didn't take copies. If each one of us in here takes an hour and a half once a month and knocks on 15 doors, in this room alone we'll talk to 1,800 voters. Doing it once helps us more than you know, and we keep seeing the same faces every Saturday. I can't be there every Saturday. Charlie can't be there every Saturday. Brandon can't be there every Saturday. We need your help. So I'm going to pass this around. If you don't have the time, if you're busy on weekends, there's also neighborhood champions, which we just popped up. Yeah.
I just want to say, anybody that has not knocked on the door, you're not going to do it alone. You'll be with a partner. And even though you're scared, you'll be with a partner. And two is better than one.
So cool. I'll go away, but I'm gonna pass this around. If that's all right. So.
And what about call from the center, all right, well, I'll leave that at that then. So, Dr. Gann has spoken, and we've shared opportunities for you to give and to volunteer. We want you guys to stick around. We want you to, we can either continue to talk with Dr. Gann one-on-one, get to know her personally, introduce yourself if you haven't done that, or we can take this opportunity if anyone had any specific questions for Q&A, or, you know, that you want to hear more about with Dr. Gann. We open that up for you as well. Yeah, so then that looks like where we're going. Okay.
All right, you mentioned, well, we know there's gangs here, and we know that when kids are growing up and they're looking for outlets and healthy bodies, what you were saying about having programs and they don't have to worry about affording is great. But the second part of that, they have difficulty with getting to
opportunities to fill that gap between morning routes, afternoon routes, and perhaps even evening routes. And so while I hadn't thought of like that being an answer, I would welcome the opportunity for collaboration so that all kids, what about all kids?
Because I do know that in overtime, part-time, and then she also just got a part-time job
On campus. And I know that.
You know, I see that.
Well, we're asking.
They won't let you.
That's for this. I know.
Let's start negotiating.
Yeah, I heard recently that morale among county staff is at a very all-time low. As mayor, how would you begin to address that? Particularly because a lot of the issues stem from commissioners not necessarily respecting the role of staff and trusting them to do their job.
And so I really appreciate that question because it parallels my work in the school district. And so on the one hand, there's a problem with morale is low, but on the other hand, there are also roles and responsibilities. And as much as we are very excited and we're passionate, this goes back to ideas. When you are in a when we're in a governance role, we also have to respect that role and do that work effectively when we're working through the county manager. So I think it's important first for the mayor themselves to have a healthy working relationship with county managers and commissioners. And your question about how would you address it, I do think the stronger that relationship is, the more capacity that relationship has to actually be able to talk about very tough things. I had that experience before with different superintendents, and sometimes even if it's it's great superintendent, but personalities differ. So it's twofold. One, I think we have to work very hard as mayor to cultivate a healthy relationship among your governing body and your county manager. And two, I think you cannot be afraid to address difficult issues, because while I may not go and work directly with our colleagues in the district, I still want them to feel that I have an open door policy. Now, I'm not their direct supervisor, but I still want them to feel that I have an open door policy, but also it's very important that I address that with the county manager. I will say about that too, that I have spoken with current county employees who have reached out since I've been running for mayor about that very thing. And their hope that someone will hear what it is they're experiencing and be able to actually cultivate a better environment. And I've done that work before. It's not easy work, and you won't hear me say that the school district is perfect, but I think what you will hear if you talk to I know, that's right. It's what you will hear if you talk to teachers, paraprofessionals, custodial staff, bus drivers. It will not be administrators. I think you will find more than a handful, a significant amount of people who have felt that they can come to me and that I can handle the situation appropriately without disadvantaging them, without overstepping my bounds with the superintendent and acting on, usurping the authority of the superintendent. And so that's delicate work, but it can be done. And I believe that it has to be done with a healthy governance team. Now, if you don't have a healthy governance team, the things that you're trying to address, the solutions that you're trying to get accomplished, you can put those at the bottom of the list because everything becomes about theatrics and politics.
So you talked about living in a place that was over police. I'm interested in your thoughts on
Center, was it about it was over $400,000 that went into the budget for the Rural Child Crime Center last year, so fiscal year 2026. I am not a fan of ongoing surveillance. And here's why. Because if we look at campus institutions and we rely on the Real-Time Crime Center to help us solve all of the crimes, what ends up happening is that there's a narrative that comes out of that. And oftentimes, that narrative is that people that are breaking the law, let's just say engaging in violent behavior, or in many cases, sexually violent behaviors, that they are typically African American males. But we also live in a college city, and we know that a lot of crimes that happen on campus, especially crimes that are sexual in nature, they're not required to be reported out to the public. Like, we may not know about that. And so I think that the Real-Time Crime Center, while I'm sure that there are people that may say, okay, there are these benefits and there are these advantages, I do believe that it further disadvantages poor communities. And so the $400,000 that we rushed and put towards the Real-Time Crime Center, I think that was removed prematurely. I think that we had already saw, if we look at our crime statistics, we had already saw a decline in some of our crime statistics. We spent about 48% of the budget is on public safety. I think before we make knee-jerk reactions like that, there is a way that we can validate loss and we can not tolerate crime without disadvantaging poor communities and communities of color.
So, I heard you say that we were building some new affordable housing, but what about the affordable housing that we have now? Like, it's not affordable. I've been here to say it's not affordable. For example, I live in the Rock Springs community, and my pay went up maybe $400, and I'm looking for paying $713, you're paying $1465. Let's keep in mind now, I only have one bathroom, 4 bedrooms. I cannot have a dryer. The washer is not updated, so they don't even sell the kind of washer that you need in there. You have to go to like deep in the country and get one out of grandma's garage type stuff. They're still using the clothesline out there. It's so many stipulations. Like, I've been there for about a year in February, and I know I've had about 8 inspections. My plumbing went out recently. I had to really get ugly about that because, oh, we'll get you in the morning. Absolutely not. I only have one bathroom. And I have 4 girls. And it's just a constant, it's a lot. And I know that people are saying, well, if you can pay $465 to just move, it's not easy just to move the address. So what is the plan for people that are already there? Like, is there something else we can do to help out there?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I hear multiple issues, and what you share. One is just the affordability in general with subsidized housing, and in many ways, subsidized housing almost seems like a thing of the past, especially if you're trying to make more, or you're trying to advance your salary. In my opinion, we have to have stronger pathways for individuals. Let's just say, when you said it's not that easy to move, we have to have stronger pathways for individuals that need to move because they are overpaid and they can qualify for a home. But we also know, based on our housing report, that there is also an issue with banks lending to particular communities, and we just haven't. We named it in the report, and so I believe that we can build better infrastructure infrastructure, then we can actually help individuals transition from what is supposed to be affordable housing, but not affordable housing, at least to housing where there are more advantages and a more, like an increased likelihood that they'll have generational wealth. I know that that's not an easy fix, but we do know that there are many people that are living in subsidized housing who perhaps can't afford a housing payment, but there's a disconnect. There is no infrastructure to get them there. There is no leverage with particular lenders. I mean, we sort of talk about it in different ways in our investment strategy report, but I don't know that we put like teeth to that. And let me just say, Daniel, I do think that is why you have to have local leaders that are not afraid to ask hard questions. And it's not just about asking hard questions. You have to have local leaders that can move a governance team to say, yeah, this is great, but this is what we expect from the banking institutions. It's not just fun and games where we all get to go to meetings at, local business meetings and have fun, and everybody is comfortable when they leave. Okay? So I believe that we have to build better infrastructure. Secondly, one of the things that I heard you mention, I've heard this mentioned from several residents, not only residents that are living in Parkview or Rock Spring, but also in some of our residents' communities where it's a private-public partnership, like Brookside. It takes months to get things prepared. Okay, months to get things prepared. To me, that is not even a funding issue. That's a leadership issue. That is a leadership issue. And so when we enter into these public-private partnerships and our, mayor and commission, and not just that, but our housing boards, they're on board and saying these things. We got to add pressure. And we have to add that pressure from the outside, but also you need people from the inside standing firm on the fact that this should not be the case. There's no reason that I should have to wait for a lock on my door to be fixed for 2 months. No reason. And so to me, that's a leadership issue, and it's also a governance issue.
I want to ask a question. You said, you have companies like, I think it's called the Linden Tree. It's supposed to be for the home, but they're not. They make it so hard. You have to jump through all these hoops, like you can all this money, like you should qualify for that house. If you pay that much for rent for that, you should qualify for one of those houses. And not just that, they do that whole thing like, I don't know how true it is. When you pass away, you have to pass no ticket, or they get it back $4. So it's like so many stipulations to that, like, can the government not do anything about that because they're making it so hard for you to, the credit score, like, to get into those affordable homes. They say they build for affordable.
Yeah, I think some of that, yes, some of it is outside of like the purview of like local government. But I will say this, I think that goes back to like infrastructure related to the question earlier. But I will also say, I think we have to be better partners in our government. We have some housing programs. We have housing programs, and there are different models. And so with our Athens Housing Authority, but when you look at the pace at which these, the homes are built and the quantity, they are great. We need more. Okay, we need more. And so some of that work is us deciding as a governing body that we're going to prioritize housing. I don't really know how else to say it. And what we've seen over the past several years, right? So one major thing that we just, well, not we, but like the mayor and commission just negotiated was the quarter. They're going to build 1,400 additional beds in the downtown area. And they negotiated some cash money to go into the affordable housing fund. We need to already, and our report talks about this, having a strike fund. We need to already be ready to purchase homes. We need to already be ready. Speaking of the Athens Land Trust, that's one model. But we have a variety of different models. Okay? We need to be ready to use that fund like it's meant to be used. It's a strike fund. So we got to be ready government moves slow, but also, I don't know that there's an urgency with housing. I think that there's an urgency that we know, but saying this is the path we're gonna take. We're just gonna take it. Governing bodies are a little bit resistant to do things like that. They're a little bit cautious. And so while we don't necessarily control like all of the different rates, like when we talk about lending rates and things like that, I do think it's a way that we can build better support. So that's what I mean when I talk about infrastructure. We gotta have a pipeline for when people are ready to get a loan. It should not be that a person just has an idea to get a loan and then they find themselves having to figure that out like, well, now what do I do? We need to provide some support that walks them from point A to point B. Someone told me, this just made me think about what you said, when I was trying to get my practice on Lexington Road, and let me just tell y'all, we purchased the practice and the house, and then like the next, I feel like a few months, COVID happened. And I was like, what in the world? Like, I don't have, but I remember telling the bank, like, okay, so what's gonna happen, y'all? Like, y'all gonna take my house, or we're gonna just be like, no, Keisha, we're not. You know, I had a contingency fund that I had set aside, but everything changed. Everything changed. And I remember talking to a local leader, local elected official, and I was trying to figure out, like, how do I do this? How do I turn my business, like, how do I make it operational? Because there are all of these different codes and ordinances. And you know, part of what they told me, and they were very supportive, you need to have more social capital. Social capital? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, because I didn't need theoretical things. I needed concrete supports to get me from concept to idea. And so I think it's the case with homeowners too. While we can't control the rates and things like that, I think they need better support that process. Yes.
Along the same lines, when you're talking about things like the acquisition strike plan, how do you envision the government really communicating and sharing that information? Like, what are the pathways or what are the ways that you feel like they'll share some, like the acquisition strike plan has been around or in talk for about 2 years, but it's hard to get information from the government about what we need to do forward. So how do you envision that?
Well, it's so much stuff. Like government, there's just so much information. I would love to see though our affordable housing fund or whatever we're going to use for the acquisition strike fund. I would love to see that monitored in real time, right? So the public can actually see, oh, we got $3 million here, and this is the plan. We're gonna put out an RFP by this date to work with a nonprofit that focuses on housing, and this is what we plan on doing with 30% of these funds. So I think part of it is letting the public know that the funds exist, right? We shouldn't have to go to a mayor and commission meeting and then read through, I think that, I can't remember how many pages there were, is to figure out like, what is this? But it needs to be in bite-sized chunks. It needs to be public facing. And you don't want to overwhelm people with information, but you do want them to know, hey, we got some funds that we're saving. And it's going up. And this is our goal. And 30% of it, our goal is to spend whatever, to move forward spending, allocating 30% of this in developing affordable housing or developing more duplexes or partnering with particular housing organizations. But I think we miss that because it's so much information. And so we start getting involved in different ideas and things like that. And we just sort of forget that the public needs to know about the funds that we have. Any others?
Hey, I just wanted to piggyback off the special needs education platform. I work with special needs almost on a daily basis at Clarksville, and they don't get a lot of recognition because you always hear about genetic kids all the time, and you only hear about special needs like when it's like Special Olympics or they always on the back burner. Like I've been working with special needs and behaviors for over 10 years, and they don't. It's like they unnoticed because they people too, they human too. But Miss Barnett is probably help me out on it because she's behaving too. But they go for 10
recognized, in special needs department. I mean, I hear them all the time saying, at Clark Middle, how they don't get enough recognition in special needs, and it's rough. So, I just want to piggyback on that, just a little bit, I can't wait to see where you're going to head with it, because I just want them not to be on the back burner, but on the front line as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and I want to welcome you to like any particular like needs. I love to keep that door open. I have a few people that I speak with pretty much every year around budget time. They're like, what are we needing for our program? I don't know what I'm saying, but what do we need? Like, what are some of the issues that you're experiencing? And so, what I would encourage you to do is, and I've heard it myself, that when you said that, it's like add you to that list, check in because we're working on, like, I tend to think with budgeting issues, but as there are other issues and problems and concerns that need to be raised to not just the board, but the superintendent.
Me and my coworker was trying to think about getting like a non-profit organization for big sister, big brother, for special needs. We were gonna look into it and see what we need to go with, but maybe I can get with you about it as well. So, come with something. I'm just, like I say, they human too, but you don't hear a lot about special needs behavior and stuff like that. Like I said, they always on the back burner, but you did always the front line with the teachers. But
Thank you for that. And just to put on your radar, that also in the schools. So let me know how I can support you. Because I'm still on school board, so how I can support you there. Also, there's work to be done in ACC with even the opportunities that we have for our disabled community, our children and adults on. There's work. There's a significant area of growth there.
Any other questions? Anything like that? Any other questions? Yes.
I think it's probably the top that area and if there's a new development coming down the street somewhere. That's a big. I'm still, the question was about the redevelopment at the mall. I need to be honest. So that redevelopment is a result of the TAG agreement, okay? And maybe 3 years ago, I don't have the exact date, but that was one of the actions that came before the school board. And like, to see if we would be in partnership with ECC Gov. And basically what a TAG does is that it causes any increases in like revenue from taxes. I was not supportive of that. Okay, so which meant I did not go for it. I did not think it was a sustainable project. And I wanted to see more community benefits. Now that is going to be re-envisioned from what, I know the last update was that the developers said, hey, we can't move forward with all of these different things. We're not going to be able to do this project, it's not feasible. And there have been talks about where to go from there. I would love to listen to ideas about housing for that space, and particularly housing for our aging population. There are people that want to retire in place. There are people that want community. They may not want to purchase a whole new house, right? Or they may not want to live in a place where community is not walkable or doesn't have like some of those built-in sort of amenities. I would love to see that idea develop more for housing. we also, so every year, there is a point in time report done for like our unhoused communities. And although it's just a snapshot of who is unhoused at that time, we have people who are a part of like the aging population, I say aging now, but as we get older, we get closer to it, that find themselves unhoused. People that, and I'm blanking on the percentage, but there was a significant percentage of those individuals also that had disabilities and things like that. And so I would love to see us re-envision that area as a community for housing. And that was part of the original plan, but there were commercial aspects too, and I do know that that's one of the ways that we used to add some type of livelihood and help the neighborhood to get these vibrant and have amenities. So I'm not opposed to that, but I do want us to focus on individuals who, I don't want us to leave out people who just are not at the place in their life where they want cars and homes and where they want community. And they want companionship, and they want a safe and nice place to live without all of the extra responsibilities.
All right, maybe one more question.
I want to talk about bold leadership, like what are the bold things that you want to do in regard to housing? Are there any other bold moves that you envision yourself making, that first year or those first 100 days? What are the bold moves?
Yeah, so it's two things. The one I think is really bold, and I don't know if it's bold, I just think I don't know, it's just something that I believe is important. I've been asked the question, like, what will you do your first 100 days? Once I'm elected mayor on May 19th, that next day, I need to be back in the communities. I need to be back listening. I need to be back empowering communities to be engaged in our governance system. So to me, that is something that leaders do not do. They don't do. Once you're elected, you get thrown into the responsibilities of governance. But that 6-month period, a lot of people, it is long, but it's an opportunity to actually go and re-engage the community around some of these actions. So that's the first thing. I don't know that that's bold, but it is something that's critically important. Secondly, I believe that I think that this is something bold, it's a part of my platform. I think we need a sort of like a concierge services for small, women-owned, and minority businesses. So according to our disparity study, a significant portion, maybe over 90% of all of our contracts for goods and services, they go to non-minority, non-women-owned businesses. And oftentimes what that does is it locks women-owned businesses out, small businesses as well. I believe immediately that we need someone in the position that can help small business owners go from concept to actually operation in our community. To me, that's critically important because we have a significant part of our community that own businesses. That is a significant part of their livelihood. The larger employers, so University of Georgia, Parkland School District, ACC Gov, our Pilgrims, and I'm missing two. Who was that? Piedmont, I'm missing one. Those wages are sort of their stipend. And so we find that a lot of our families have to have another business. We're not in the time of like where people can just work one job. And so oftentimes that's through entrepreneurship. And so we need to better position those individuals. And particularly those individuals that have small businesses that are owned by women or that are minority owned. So to me, that's something I'm excited about. That's something I can speak to being a business owner myself. It's something that I grew up in. So a long time ago now, over 4 decades ago, I always talk about my grandma. My grandma cleaned houses in 5 Point. She worked at the sorority house. She cooked for the girls at 5U. And she sold ice cream and fish plates. And, you know, by now, right, if we reversed, you know, like several years, my grandmother had a thriving business here. But it's about the social capitals. We have to equip our families with the social capital so that they can thrive. If we know that there's a cap on what we can offer with wages, and oftentimes there is, like in school districts, then we have to figure out how to help our families be more successful with what they earn, in addition to advocating for their wages.
All right. Well, you guys can, we're here to 8, so feel free to continue to talk. We'll be here to 8. Some of you guys recognize and need to go, and some have left. But Dr. Gann will still be here. But we want to again thank you all for coming out. Just real quick, because I think we got it, y'all.
Feel free to take some of the public plate or whatever. There's all that little mouse to be.
Based on our envelope and numbers and what you now told me, I think we reached our 1,000. Thank you guys again. Please come out and vote May 19th, and we hope that we can count on you for Dr. Lakeisha Gann for mayor.